if my servant has a fear of mine in this world, I will grant him salvation from the fear of the day of judgment. And if a person who is secure and safe regarding his actions in this world, then he will be fearful on the day of judgment. That gives us to a very important lesson in our life, and that is developing muhasabatun nafs, looking into our own self and starting to reckon our own self, that which direction our life is going. And that is very important, because every single day a person is accumulating so many actions in his book of deeds. Ratb and yabis, good and bad. And if a person does not go back and look into the actions that he has performed and he has done, then on the day of judgment, when the real reckoning will begin, at that time this person will be very upset of himself. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu mentions that whoever wants to save himself from the horrors of the day of judgment, let him look into his action in this world. And let him be angry upon himself regarding his responsibility that he did not fulfill towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this dunya, so that when he goes on the day of judgment in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he can be saved from that great reckoning. That on that day, every person, his actions will be brought in front. So when a person is watchful and mindful of his action in this dunya, then he can save himself from the great horrors of the day of judgment. So this is why it is compulsory upon every individual to look into his actions or her action and try to see that which direction my actions are going. My actions are taking me towards the pleasure of Allah or against the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Towards Jannah or towards Jahannam. If I'm doing an action, is that action, strong enough to save me from the punishment on the day of judgment? Or it will take me to the punishment on the day of judgment? Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah in Madarij writes that muhasabatun nafs is categorized into three things. And from the three things, number one is yuqasa ni'matahu ala adabik, that you look into the ni'mah that Allah Azza wa Jal has given you, that you take comparison of the blessings of Allah in compared to your disobedience towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the first muhasabah that we need to do. Allah has given me so many ni'mah in my life. So many blessings have come into my life. And now, in comparison to these blessings, what was my disobedience towards Allah? What was my action that was not worthy to be presented in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So that is the first muhasabah that every individual needs to do. Looking into his ni'mah. Allah has given me this blessing, Allah has given me this blessing, Allah has given me this blessing. Now compare that to the disobedience in our life. And remember, this is muhasabatun nafs. It's not muhasabatun nas. Today we are so much engrossed into muhasabatun nas that we forget about muhasabatun nafs. Looking into the actions of individual and becoming judge and giving judgment or passing judgment over those. That is muhasabatun nas, looking into people and their actions. But this is not muhasabatun nas, it's muhasabatun nafs, your own self. What you are doing and which direction you're going. And you don't have to be, every person knows how much deep inside he is, into disobedience or obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he is the best regarding judging his own self. This is why on the day of judgment, Allah will say, كَفَى بِنَفْسِكَ الْيَوْمَ عَلَيْكَ حَسِيبًا. That today, you are sufficient to become the accountant of your own action. You are sufficient. You don't need to bring anyone else. So this is why it is very important for us to look into ourselves and see which direction we're going. The first muhasabah that we need to work on regarding the ni'mah of Allah and our disobedience towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And every individual, he's going to find that the ni'mah of Allah is much more greater. The disobedience of Allah is much more greater than the blessings that we are being. Allah has given us so much blessings, but on top of that, our disobedience always increases. So when we come into that, when we come down to that conclusion, that my disobedience versus the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what do I need to do? I need to start from less sins in my life. To bring less sins in my life. If there is a way that I can stop myself from sinning, then that would be the best thing to do for myself. There are many ways that a person, sometimes a person wants to say something, but he locks his mouth. That means he saved himself from sinning. Sometimes the person wants to do something, but he stops himself from doing. And there are many things that a person would, throughout his entire day, he would come across many actions. And the way to do that is a person thinks about, I'm going to do this action. Is it going to bring the pleasure of Allah or the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? When you are able to figure this part out, then it's very easy to do those things which are pleasing to Allah, and very easy to stay away from those things which are displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us the strength. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for us. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give us the ability to do our own muhasabah so that we can correct our life and correct our action. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Jazakumullahu khairan. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa